Hello, my name's Pene. You're very welcome to join me. If you like a chat about crafting, well, I'm going to do a little chat about Agatha Christie. Pete's choosing his desert island disc for if he ever went to a desert island, what he'd like to take with him. And there's a little film of the garden because it's June and all the flowers are out and it's lovely. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks, although I did do quite a lot of filming before that because I showed you how to make a quilt for absolute beginners. And first of all, thank you so much for all your wonderful comments about that. And I know several of you have started to quilt or done it in a different way, which is always good, isn't it? To learn new skills, learn to just do things differently, gives it a bit of a fresh take, doesn't it? And particularly for Frances, my friend, who never thought she could ever do anything, but she overcame the fear of picking up a needle and threading it and finds she loves it. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased. So I did some quite intensive filming and I did that over a week and I just felt I needed a break. So Pete and I, we went away with my daughter and son-in-law just for 4 nights to Dartmoor. It's the place that we love and we can walk and just is lovely. So we went there and then came back last week. I showed you what was on my crafting table to do. And today I filmed this morning what I've done. So it's less than a week, but I've managed to do some things. And last week we had wall-to-wall sunshine here, no rain whatsoever during the day. And we had the house painted. Dave the Paint came, we've known him for years, and he's an early starter. So 7:15, knock on the door, and he worked till about 2:15, which was then lovely because you feel like you've got the place to yourself again. And it's been a long time since a house has ever been painted. We've had new windows and things like this that don't need painting, but the bits that do, they needed doing. So we're really pleased to have got that all done in a lovely sunny week. Today it's sunshine and showers. At the minute it looks sunny, but that can change in a jiffy. So shall we go straight over then to my crafting table of last week, and then that will run into my crafting table of today, and I'll see you after that. What's on my table that needs to be done? Shall we start this end? Pete's socks. One's done. J. So the second one needs to get a move on, which it is not doing too badly. So Pete's socks. There's another pair of socks here for Pete, which are Fair Isle. I've never done Fair Isle socks before. I'm doing them with John Arbon in the blue and the cream. I'll show you those if I've done a little bit more by the time I see you next, which will be a second for you, but I don't know how long for me. We went, as you know, I probably have said, we went away to Dartmoor again just for a few days. We find that going away just for a few days really does Pete good. And so off we went with our daughter and son-in-law. I'll have either told you all about it or I'm going to tell you all about it. And there on our walk was a beautiful wool shop. It's called the Wool on the X, E-X-E, because it's Exeter where we stay for the first night before we go on to Dartmoor. And what a beautiful shop. I could have spent hours there. Well, of course I could. It's a wool shop. It was really, really lovely. And so I bought pigeon for Pete. I like it. It's soft colours, wood pigeon. And then my son-in-law wanted mallard. There was lots of mallards on the River Exe, so he chose mallard. And then I bought, because I love the jumper I knitted which I'll put the name on the screen. No, I'm not going to do that one. I decided to do a different one, but I want to do, you know, but I didn't want to spend out the money for, it's quite expensive for the spin cycle wool. And so I bought 2 balls of the Chopel edition 3. I bought those 2, and I'm going to choose a light colour to go round it. So I'll be showing you that as I do it, not starting that yet, haven't got the wool to go with it, but that is going to be on my radar. And then I have this, that as you know I bought from Anne of Spar Knits, and it's very, very pretty. And Nicola, my daughter, wants a pair of socks, the ones that you just put in trainers. So I'm just going to do a little rib and then go straight into the sock. So that's on there to do. So we're talking socks here and jumper when I've got the rest of the wool. Socks. Now we went to when we went to Dartmoor, we went and visited Greenway, which was Agatha Christie. We did a whole day of Agatha Christie, which was super. And we also went to Castle Drogo. So I want to get a film put together and tell you about those 2 places. And I've also got my book here because I need to look up the next bit that I'm going to read to you for my next episode. I've got the quilt here that I did 1 quilt. I made another one, and so I need to get this quilted. Oh, I've got loads. I want to do another one to go with my story, and I want to do, I called them conker trees, and because in my garden, the next bit I'm going to read, it was 1930s flats, beautiful Poirot type flats, but in the garden, which nobody was ever in except me, and that's it really. A guy, young boy who lived in one of the other flats. That is it. It was a most peaceful, and for me it was huge. I'll tell you about that when I read my story. But I want to do a conker tree. I want to embroider it to go on my embroideries for my book. And then I'm behind with my you know, my tags that I do because I went away. So I've got my tags to do. And then, of course, I've got Helen of MousieMakes. I've got to get on with that. I'm going to do this. I've traced it. And I'm going to do that as an embroidery. I hopefully will get it done by the end of June, but if I don't, I don't. I have started it, but not much done at all. But I've sorted these silks, as you can see, but they're sticking. Yeah, I've sorted all the silks out, so they're in my bag. I've done 1 little mousie. I've traced it onto my piece of fabric. It's a bit screwed up. And I've done 1 little mousie. So that is what's on my crafting table. Quite a bit to do. We'll see how I get on until I see you next. Well, it's been less than a week. I usually like to give it a week or 10 days, but yeah, I recorded last Tuesday and showed you what was needing to be done, and today's Monday. So we'll see what I've accomplished. Hasn't been too bad. I've started Nicola's socks. She wants some socks for her trainers. And that's what I've knitted or started. Just the normal cuff and then straight into the heel, no leg. I did 3 stitches, knit stitches at the beginning of the rows, which is quite nice. I think it's nice to pick up, and it gives a little bit of something, doesn't it? You can see the decrease there. And I'm just knitting up to the toe now. So I'm hoping that's going to be a success. They're the first pair of shorty socks I've ever knit. So easy peasy, and the wool's lovely. So that'll be nice for her. What else? Oh, I'm up to date with my diary tags. Yes, I caught up there. That, you know, it's easy to catch up. You think, oh, I haven't done it because, and then just writing what happened last week. That's all I need to know. Just to remind me. I chose flowers because the garden is looking lovely. That's the end film, actually. I just did a little few flowers and walked round the garden if you're interested. And this is the sort of colour of our garage door and our side door, well, and our shed door. So yeah, if there's doors that aren't double glazed, you know, that's the colour of them. And I like it. It's very nice. And that actually is a swallow, but you can't really see. But we did see our first swallow when Francis was staying that week, so that was fun. But easy peasy lemon squeezy. There's a couple of things on here I liked. Oh yes, when I was talking to Francis on the phone when she'd got home, she was going to visit a fabric shop, which she had been before with Heather, you know, our joint friend. And she said, you know, before she'd started the quilt, she used to stand in the fabric shop, and her words were, it felt like it was a men's underwear shop. And that did so make me laugh. Whereas now, of course, she started her first quilt and she went back there and, you know, quite had a look round and saw what she might fancy doing next time. But yeah, it felt to her like a men's underwear shop, so out of water. Well, if you don't sew, so being surrounded by all this fabric and you not knowing what to do with it, it must feel like that, mustn't it? Another thing I found last week, I popped to the dentist to have a teeth clean, and I was flicking through the books they have there, and one of the people from Strictly Come Dancing, they said to her, what's your philosophy on life? And she said, live your life as a verb, not a noun. I thought that was so good. Try and do as much. Don't just be, you know, a couch potato. So yeah, I thought that was good. But live your life like a verb, not a noun. So it's just things on my up-to-date diary tag. Oh, I finished the socks. Here we go. These are J. They're nice, aren't they? Jazzy. Of course, when they're on, they show the pattern. Knit, you know, knit 3, purl 1. But then I do the bottom, obviously, of the foot plain. But the top, I still carry on in that knit 3, purl 1. So there's another pair of socks for PJ. I'm sort of having a little think about socks, how I do them, and I'll tell you that in a minute. So I'm pleased with those. Let me go on to another pair then for you. I'll show you these. This is with John Arbon in blue and I forget that colour, but it's a sort of, well, anyway, you can see the colour there. It's quite good. And I'm knitting I'll just get the pattern, the Bunny Wishes socks. They're so nice. They take some doing. So I thought I said to him, would you wear them? He said, yeah, I like them. So here we go. It's fun, isn't it? You've got one either side. And then, of course, the pattern for the other leg is going to be the different way round. And what I've learnt from these socks well, first of all, they're going to be very warm because they're double. Still got my ends to, haven't finished it yet. So that's going to be warm. So they're going to be more of an autumn winter sock, which is lovely. I did the Eye of Partridge heel, which means knit one, slip one, knit one, slip one. So you get that slipped bit of wool across, and then the next row is purl. So on the heel, it's similar to, can you see that? There. Similar to the leg. So it's going to be lovely and warm, and also quite hard wearing, I think. That's done on a 2.5, and that's done on a 2.5. But this is done, the plain, on a 2.25. And I don't know if you can see how fine it knits and how beautifully it's knitting up. I'm really pleased with that, really pleased. And I started knitting Pete's socks. I used to knit him a 72, but they stretch a bit as you wear them, and you don't really want baggy socks. Well, they're not really baggy. He says they're fine, but I started doing it on 68 stitches. But I've decided my next pair I knit for him, I'm going to do 72 stitches, but I'm going to do it on a 2.25, which will mean you get that lovely fine look. I think that's super. I mean, a vanilla sock knitted like that will look beautiful, I think. So that's my next project for him. When I finish this, I've got to finish Nicholas and I've got to finish this, but it's fun, isn't it? Bunny Wishes sock by Sarah L. Kelly. And in another episode, I'll talk about her jumpers that she makes. The most incredible as a designer. She gives you about 12 patterns that you might like to knit for things in the garden. She does one for camping, for outdoors, like 12 things. And then you could maybe choose 3 or 2 or 4, whatever you fancy. And I think I'd like to do one, not all the way down. She shows you it all the way down just because. But, you can incorporate as many as you want. And I fancy doing it, with just a few flowers and a few different bits and bobs. She's very nice. Anyway, I'll talk about that another episode when I've got myself sorted out with it. For the minute, it's the Bunny Wishes socks. So I've got on with those all right. Just my first one. I showed you last time that I'd bought 2 balls of wool from... is it the shop on the X? I'll put it on the screen. Beautiful wool shop. I can't wait to go back. But I've undone this wool and it is very pretty. It's lovely. And that is what I'm using for the pattern around the top. I've got the pattern here. Oh, it's not round the top. Oh, yeah, last one I did was round the top. My first top down, wasn't it? Then I did the J. That was a top down. And I can't take that off. So that's again a yoke. This one is round the bottom and the sleeves. So I'm going to use this for the whole of that pattern. And see how it comes down. It's called Forest Light by Jen Steingass. So that's going to be for the pattern. And then I thought, we need again, as is so often the case, but we don't in Britain have much of it. We need this heavy 4-ply light double knitting, which they call a sport weight. And so I popped along to my local wool shop in the town, which is where I've shopped for the last 16 years. She now has it up for sale, unfortunately, but I've bought most of my wool from her. Well, I have. Just the odd bit online, obviously, or if I'm somewhere else. And she went upstairs, she came down with a box of this. Sierra Andina. Now, I've knitted two things in it that I bought from her many, many years ago. This one, you've seen me wearing it. And look how it's worn. It's absolutely beautiful. This is a nice pattern. It has that little tuck up there. I knitted it in that colour. Oh, it's got a weight to it, but it's so light. It's 100% alpaca. I mean, just beautiful. But I also knitted the same sweater because I loved it. It's from a Scottish book. I'll link it below. But you can see the drape and the warmth. So I've had these, I can't tell you how many years I've had these. And look how it's warm, beautiful. Mind you, as you know, I'm not one to wear and wash. I tend to do what they do maybe in Scandinavia. I'll hang it on the line if it's really chilly but dry, or if it's warm and dry. Not obviously full sun, but just give it a blow through. That's all wool needs, isn't it? Anyway, so I've knitted those two in this wool. And Jane, my wool shop lady, she said this is really classed as it's an Italian wool. It's classed as sport weight. So I thought, well, let's go for it. And I think those two will look lovely. So that's my autumn knit. No rush for it. Just pick it up. I can't wait to start it really, but not at the moment. It's in my bag, in my project bag. And it can be there until I fancy. But I do fancy. So that's the pattern again. Forest Light by Jen Steingass. We'll see what happens. I'm going to give you a little chat about Agatha, not about Greenway. I'm going to keep that for another week, but I've got that sorted in my head, so I'll give you a little chat about Agatha Christie. I can't get her out of my head. I'm listening to her audiobooks now, and yeah, really good. The reason she's different to everyone else is because her books are about people, and that's what I like. I like people. As a counsellor, I was so interested in people and their lives and their problems, and that's really what, they're not scary, they're not, there's nothing that you wouldn't want anybody else to listen to or read. It's all about, it's just lovely, but it's interestingly all about people, and that's what she was interested in, people, right from a young girl. Anyway, I'll tell you that when I do a little chat about it after this. I've started the quilt, so here we have it. It's had its wadding and its backing put on, and we went away for a few days to Dartmoor, and that's where, oh yes, I told you, that's where we went to Greenway. And so honestly, I've got the bird app Merlin. I heard Helen of MousieMakes talk about it, and I thought, oh, I'll download it. And there I am, in this wood. 6 o'clock, I got up and just went for a little stroll. It's in the gardens of where we stayed, and I felt very safe. And the birds that came up, well, I saw them. I know what they are by sight of a bird because we've been birders for a long time, but I don't know their calls. But listening to their calls on Merlin really helps you. you're listening to that. It's coming up, flashing where it is, and then you see the bird, and somehow that goes in. And there were so many beautiful, unusual. Well, I was thrilled. Let's put it like that. So I decided to quilt my quilt, as this is a bird quilt. I decided to do birds. So that's how I'm doing it. Because the idea of quilting is to hold the three pieces together after all. You're not going to see much quilting on here unless you go straight across, which I did for my grandsons, my great-grandsons. But I didn't want to do the same. So here on the right side, you can see the birds there. But you've got to find them and search for them. And so I'm going to write in each bird what I saw when I was away. And the room that we stayed in when we were away was called Laughter. Just a very apt name for a hotel bedroom. So this quilt's going to be called Laughter. I'm going to write the name of the birds that I saw in the wood. I'm halfway through. I've done the first top. And so it's a small quilt. I've just got the second half to do, which I've got pinned ready, just in small pieces, if you remember. I just do it in small pieces, and then I smooth the rest of it out and do that. So that's had a start, and I'm pleased with it. What else is on my table? Oh, I finished MousieMakes. MousieMakes Makealong. Yeah, I've done it. What can I put it on to show you? It's from Brambley Hedge. And this is the one I've done. And here it is. I'm going to make it into one of the 5-inch squares that I've got hanging up here. And so it's going to join those people over there hanging. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. I really, really did. So I'm pleased with that. And I shall make that into a 5-inch square. So that's that on its way. But yeah, I haven't done badly. So we'll have a little chat now. So that's my crafting table for the week. Shall we go over and listen to Pete's Desert Island? There's a couple of outtakes at the beginning, so don't be put off by that. I just thought I'd keep them in. And then he tells you about a couple of records that he remembers from 1962. That's what you're going to look like, Roy Orbison.
Well, I'm going to have to, because you'll have to say sorry about the glasses, but my eyes aren't very good today. Or something.
Or should we sit in the other room?
No, we're all right here. Oh, hang on a minute. I just wanted to...
Okay, so it's Desert Island Discs again.
Yes.
And what have you chosen and why?
Well, there was two that I was mulling over.
Right.
The one I've decided is it might as well rain until September.
Carole King.
Carole King.
It might as well rain, but that makes me go like get goosebumps.
Why is that?
I don't know. Anyway,
it was because
it was a hit in 1962.
62,
yeah. It was a hit.
Well, yeah.
So you were there. Where?
At the Lyceum in the Strand.
Right, and that's what makes you choose it.
Yeah. The other one, the other one was Hey Baby.
Hey Baby, who
Yeah.
by?
Bruce
Chanel.
Bruce Chanel, that's it. And
I love that one.
because
He was born in Texas in 1940. Rock and roll.
yeah, and
How does it go?
Hey Baby, won't you take a chance?
No.
Oh.
That's Let's Dance by Chris
Oh, yeah.
Montez.
Hey baby,
Boom.
I wanna know, whoa,
I
if
said,
you be my girl.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a super record. Go with that, not Carole King. Carole King gives me that, ooh.
Well,
Both together. Both. He was number one in 1962.
yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, we went to the Lyceum in the Strand
Yeah.
because the DJ there played good records.
Oh.
He came on in the interval when Cyril Stapleton, who was the awkward bloke,
Right.
went off for his
Cyril
break.
Stapleton and his orchestra.
Yeah, it was an orchestra.
Okay.
All the mods went there.
Right.
We were,
Yeah.
And,
And Ian Samwell, he was responsible. He heard Cliff Richard in the Two Eyes Coffee Bar.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And he thought, and wrote his first hit.
Move It. Which
It.
was the best British disc,
Yeah.
so much, it's so
Everything
light.
new. Yeah.
So, well, it was like the Americans. It's the first one that could compete with the Americans.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it was Cliff Richards.
And he became a guitarist in Cliff Richard's band, Cliff Richard and the Drifters.
That's it.
And then, of course, Hank Marvin and
and Bruce Welch came along.
Yes.
And
and then he became this.
Well, they asked him. He wrote "Move It," and then they asked him to do that, and he did all sorts of things after that.
But he was the DJ in the Lyceum. Where's the Lyceum?
In the Strand.
In the Strand in London.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a shame about the Lyceum because it was going to get knocked down, and then they made it into a ballroom, which is where we went.
Yeah.
And
there's the phone.
I don't believe it.
Oh, hang on. That was. Do we need any replacement windows and doors? But we're back now. No, we don't. So this Ian Samwell, he was asked to be the DJ in the Lyceum.
Yeah.
And you went along.
Well, yeah. It's because we knew some people from that lived near us, a little gang of blokes that we knew.
Right.
And they worked at the as scene shifters. What was the name of the? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember now. But it was a studios, recording, studios for
Elstree.
Elstree Studios. That's it.
Okay.
And they said to Ian, my mate,
Yeah.
Cool, you want to come to the Lyceum? Everybody's going there. So we said, oh, okay. So off we went. Well, that's the thing was, Ian had a velo set.
What's that?
Well, it's a bit like a scooter, but it's also a bit like a motorbike. It's a sort of half and half thing.
Okay.
It was, old men rode it, sort of thing.
Oh,
but,
did they?
Yeah, it wasn't something to be seen on, really.
Oh, righty-ho.
And it only had one seat. But
one seat?
Yeah, but it had quite a sturdy...
so not a hip mod scooter?
No, not that type. Anyway, I used to sit on the back, and we used to go from Potter's Bar to the Lyceum.
Right.
And that's
You're
a long
scratching
way.
your head as if, how the hell did you do it?
Absolutely, how the hell did we do it? Because we had to go... We did have a big hill to go down.
Oh, that helped?
Yeah, no, it didn't really, because at the bottom of traffic lights.
Right.
And we had to close our eyes because we couldn't stop. These brakes weren't that good. It was a right... Oh, I don't know how we did it. I really don't. And you talk about kids getting, doing silly things now. We were doing some silly things then. And that was one of them.
Oh,
but we didn't go that much. We didn't go that much.
You are a cat with more than one life, aren't you?
Yeah.
More than 9 lives, I tell you, people that know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how you got there, on the back of this bike thing.
That's right.
But of course there was
Actually,
only
it was
one
Highgate
seat.
Hill we were going down. You know Highgate Hill.
Right.
Whoa.
I bet there's only one seat. Where did you sit?
I told you I sat on the thing at the back.
The bumper.
Bumper at the back type thing. It was.
And you've got long legs.
I know. And all my legs were in front, behind.
And so these 2 records remind you of that fun time.
Yeah, but I think we'll have to take both of them, love.
Okay, you can take both.
Can I? Will you let me take both?
We'll incorporate it as one because it's called the Lyceum.
Yeah, that's it.
Did you like it at the Lyceum?
Oh, it was brilliant.
Was it?
It was still a bit. There was a lot of gangs got there, different little gangs, and they used to fight each other.
Oh.
You know, they did.
Who did you fight?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No. And the other thing I remember is the girls wore slingback shoes.
Oh yeah.
And so as they walked around the thing, all you could hear is.
I had a pair of blue patent slingback shoes, like shiny blue dot. You know. Anyway, we're waffling, so we'll say cheerio. Bye bye. So that's his recollection. When you listen to it now, it sounds quite scary, doesn't it? But I think for them, it was just the norm. Anyway, 2 lovely records. I'm shame I can't play them because of copyright. But I'm sure you know them, or if you don't, you can do that usual thing of Googling them and having a listen. So I wanted to tell you about Agatha Christie. We went to Greenway, which was her holiday home at Dartmouth, and it is a most special place and a most special house. And we went, the chap who picks us up from the station and takes us to our hotel, he's such a lovely man, Mark, and he took us all round for the day and did us an Agatha Christie tour. We learned that Agatha Christie was born in a house in Tor, near Torquay. Her mum, her dad was an American, and he had to go back to America for a short while. And while he was away, he said to her mum, I want you to buy us a house, procure us a house that will be right for us. And Agatha Christie's mum, she didn't look in the, I want to say highfalutin place, the place where it was seen, good to be seen. She chose a particular place near Torquay, and at the bottom of the road was the sea, and it was just woods. I think they had quite a few acres, and they had, what could you call it, staff. Not too many staff, but it was just an idyllic childhood that Agatha had. Her mum didn't want her to read, apparently, until she was 8. And until then, Agatha was taught at home. And I'll show you in the little film I put after this that Babbacombe was very nearby. Pete happened to spend his childhood there at Babbacombe, always going down to Devon and going on holiday there. So he was particularly happy to go back and see it after many, many years. But it's a place where Agatha would go, her mum would meet her friends, they'd walk along the front, they'd go back to tea and coffee. And because Agatha was schooled at home, she was with the adults all the time. And she started people watching. As I say, so we were told that her mum didn't want her to read till she was 8. But once she could read, she read everything, every single thing, every book there was to read in the house, Agatha read it. And apparently one day she had the flu and she'd read everything there was to read. And her mum said, well, perhaps you ought to write something then. And that's when Agatha wrote something. Yes, it was quite good. And her mum encouraged her. Well, they published it. And that's how her writing career took off. So at a young age, obviously later with her famous books, she lived in this house where she was born. She had a brother and a sister, and her dad died when she was quite young. And so they had to pull their belt in, things became much harder. Up until then, they were quite, upper middle class, if you like. But suddenly things had to take a different turn. And yeah, Agatha's life changed a bit. But her mum was really insistent that they stayed in the house and they could do what they did. And, you know, they managed it. When the First World War came along in 1914, just before, well, Agatha used to go to dances in Torquay. We went to the hotel. I'll show you that in the little film. And so she had quite a few boyfriends. She was a pretty woman. And again, she went roller skating on the pier. And yes, she had a very, very happy childhood. Her grandmother and her mother were the mainstays of her life. They really were. She adored her mother. And yeah, it was... And her mother didn't want her to marry the guy that she met, Archie. She said, no, he's too good looking. Women will like him. No, don't do it. But they courted. And then the First World War came along, 1914. And Agatha, he joined the Air Force, which was pretty new in those days, obviously. And Agatha became a nurse. And that's where they say that she learned all about her poisoning. Getting back to Archie, her mum didn't want her to marry him. But she wanted to because it was the First World War, 1914. Archie thought he'd never come back from the war. And one day they got married. They had 1 day's honeymoon in Torquay. And then he went back off to war. And she was a nurse. And he did come back. And they were very happy together. But just as Agatha's mum predicted, yes, he strayed. And in the same year that her mum died, Archie told her that he no longer wanted to be married, that he had met somebody else. And we know that Agatha had a bit of a breakdown, and who can blame her? She had been, you know, writing her books and was very famous and very successful, but she was a very, very shy woman. And life, she had a daughter, and life, it was a quiet life. She was a writer. She didn't want to be in the public eye, and she didn't give many interviews, actually. And when we went to Greenway, there was a recording of her voice, and it just sounded like one of my school teachers, quite frankly. And she looked and dressed like one of my school teachers. But yeah, that was quite interesting. Well, it was just lovely. It was a lovely, lovely tour that we did, and we learnt a lot about her. So I'm going to put a little film up here, just our holiday snaps of our what we saw. And yeah, enjoy. Outside Agatha's childhood home, now flats, which she was so dreadfully upset about. She wanted to buy it, they wouldn't let her. This is Babbacombe, the funicular way down to the beach, very, very high cliffs. And Pete was there as a boy, always playing the same places as Agatha, which was lovely to find out. The landslips there now, they're just waiting for that house to fall in. There he is, walking along and exploring all the haunts that he went to and loved as a child. Because Agatha couldn't buy her house, she bought this 7.5 acres of land. And there is a small piece here, which was often they have Agatha plays on. And it's a beautiful piece of countryside. And as I say, they're the bays. She nearly drowned in one of the bays, but obviously she got back to safety. But this was really her favourite place, or shall we say one of her favourite places. And it was Pete's too. Thatcher's Rock, that's called. The flowers along the cliff edge were beautiful. And we drove along the beach huts there. That was the first ladies only beach bathing place. And this is the hotel where Agatha would have gone to have her dances and meet people. Babbacombe, where we've just seen, that was where she not paraded along, but went along for walks and met people and went back to their homes for coffee. And here she is with a boyfriend, and they used to roller skate on the pier. And there's the lamps that were there at the time, and they're still there. Of course, we had a picture by them. I hope you enjoyed that little film. Next time I'll take you down to Greenway and show you around there and tell you a little bit more about Agatha's life. Something funny happened this week. Well, first of all, I got a lovely present in the post, and my friend Heather, her mum, I call her Dolly, she sent me a present. She said, I know you miss your chickens, but I have got an emotional chicken, of course, that Helen made for me. And so she said, I think he needs a bit of a rooster. She saw the pattern for Roo the rooster. And here he is. Isn't he fantastic? I mean, isn't he just, he'd cheer anybody up, wouldn't he, if they needed cheering up. Talking about emotional chicken, I think Roo the rooster is necessary too. They sit together and they're quite friendly, aren't you? Yeah. So thank you very, very much. He's just so gorgeous, so bright and cheerful. But my friend, she was up there staying with her mum, and she said, we were watching the Chinwag where you interviewed Mum. And I did, because, you know, she had led an interesting life. I'll put what episode it is up on the screen if you want to catch it. And it is funny because I started knitting the knitted animals, as you know. You've seen them in the past. And so Dorothy, she loved them, and she's knitted a few. But in the little photo I'm going to show you, they're sitting in the back, just looking, you know, very innocent. And what a funny photo it is, because they were watching the episode where I interviewed Dolly, and they had, what do you call it? You know, when you need the writing on the bottom. Oh, I've forgotten what it's called now. You know what I'm like when I'm filming. Words just don't stay in my head. Anyway, she had those words that went along the bottom. And I said to Dolly, I said, and, you know, what were you trained as? What did you do for a job, you know? And she said to me, well, I was a trained tailoress. And she made quilts, actually. Not quilts. She made kilts. Yes, living in Scotland, you know, and she was telling me how it's quite involved to make a quilt and all of that. So yes, she was a trained tailoress. So I'm going to put a photo up here now. I'm not going to say the word. It did make us all laugh, especially with those two animals looking on in the back. So I'll put that up here and you can have a laugh too. So on that note, I'm going to say cheerio. There's no time for a story this week. It's obvious, isn't it? So we'll have my story next week, and we'll have a little bit more about Agatha, and I won't ramble on too much about my crafts. That was quite a long one this week, but every week is different with my Chinwag. It's how it is. So yeah, thanks very much, and I will see you when I see you. Till then, bye-bye. Take care. Hey, Roo.